This is Barnestorm training for the task of creating a scheduled visit in point of care. In this session, we will cover selecting a patient, starting a visit note, documenting data on the required items such as safety, vital signs, pain, functional, reviewing medications, and teachings, along with previewing and completing your visit. The first thing to do to start a visit is to look up the patient on the Select Patient screen. You can do this by entering in the patient's 3 digits of its last name here. You can also type in the first name, a chart number, or you can click on the My Patients button, My Recent Visit button, or My Schedules button. To use the My Schedules button, your office will have to use the Barnestorm scheduler. A list of patients will appear below after typing in your patient's name, and you can simply click on the patient's name on the list. The patient who was selected will appear in the box at the top of the screen, located here. This is a good time to double check that you have selected the correct patient. At the bottom of the screen, you can view the recent visits, the 485s, and the recent OASIS. From here, you have a few options to start your visit. You can click on the Visits and Assessment tab on the main menu, which will bring you to the visit screen. From here, you would click the New button to start the new visit. But the fastest way to start a visit from the front screen is to click on the New button in the Recent Visit panel at the bottom of the screen. And this will launch a new visit. You are now ready to start your visit. Keep in mind that this part of the process, the start of the visit, should be done in the patient's home. So you should have your computer in the patient's home at the time of the visit. If you don't feel like you can take the computer into the patient's home, you can start the visit in your car and leave the computer in your car during your visit. When the visit is done, you can get back in your car and complete the visit documentation. Medicare specifies that documentation must be completed within sight of the patient's home. So to meet their standards, documenting in the home or in the car is necessary. Complying with these standards also will save you time, because if you complete your visit note at the time of the visit, you will not have to go back later and try to remember the documentation details, which can take hours of time. It takes, on average, 8 minutes or less to document a visit in Barnestorm Point of Care, so we strongly recommend completing your entire visit note at the patient's home. At the beginning of each visit, you will answer 4 questions that determine the type of visit and that will calculate the billing charges for the visit. The first question you answer is the assessment type. This will determine which screen will show up on your visit. I'm going to go ahead and select the scheduled visit. Next, you need to select the payer. If there is more than one payer for this patient, normally you will select the primary payer, which will be listed at the top. The job code applies to your skill set. I'm going to click on Skilled Nursing. If you are a different discipline like physical therapist, you will see those options listed here as well, and you can go ahead and click on the one that applies to you. If your discipline type has multiple job codes, then you will need to ask your supervisor which one you will need to use. Finally, you will select the visit status code. This relates to what type of visit you are going to be making. I am going to select the subsequent visit. Keep in mind your options will look different as each Barnestorm customer customizes their options. Once you have those initial 4 questions answered, you can start the visit. I'm going to go ahead and start my visit as if I just arrived at the patient's home. I will click the Start button, which marks the visit date and start time of the visit. If you are going to leave your computer in the car, be sure to click the Start button before you get out of the car. Notice that the patient's chart number, name, and short description shows up here. You can use this as another way to verify that you have the correct patient pulled up before you start your visit. From here, I have a few options. If I have a narrative that I want to put into the visit to explain what the patient was doing when I got there, I can put it here in the comment section. As you can see, there is already pre-text that you can set up that will show up on all visits. So I can type in my narrative here. So you can put anything you like in this comment section. If you prefer to complete the narrative at the end of your visit, you can come back to this area at any time to document it. Once I'm done, I can go ahead and click on the required and optional buttons on the left. This opens up all the items available to me to document the visit by topic. The required items are the ones that are specified by your agency that you will need to at least review at each visit. For an example, you may see wound assessment as a required item. If the patient doesn't have a wound, you do not need to document it here. All the required items have a red circle with an exclamation point on it. Items that are completed are marked with a green circle with a check mark in it, like the start item is here. Optional items are marked with a blue circle, like the ones down here. Optional means that it is up to you whether you want to document or not document these items during the patient's visit. For an example, if you have a patient with skin issues, you are going to need to use the optional skin screen to document your patient's skin issues. Keep in mind that this visit note will create your formal visit documentation, and your signature will appear on this document. Therefore, be sure that you use any topics you need to document the patient's care. I'm going to get started on the visit documentation by clicking Safety. You can go in any order. You don't have to go in the order that the screens appear. Here on the safety screen, you'll notice that there are red explanation points, circles, up here for safety concerns and patient status of this visit. I am going to go ahead and click on one of the items. No safety concerns at this time. If you have any safety concerns, you can indicate them here and type in the text box with additional information. There is also other information you can indicate during your visit here as well. When I answer the questions, I will get a green check mark here, a green check mark at the top of the tab here, and a green check mark over here on the main menu for safety. Next, I will click on the vital signs item, and this screen works a little differently. The items that are required are marked with a red background. So temperature, pulse, respirations, and blood pressure all have red as a background, which make them all required items. These items will not turn green until they are fully completed. The items that are optional are marked in gray and blue, like abdominal girth, height, weight, and so on. They are not required, but you can document them if you are taking those measurements. At the bottom, you will find a Vital Signs History tab. This shows you each date that the vital signs were measured for the patient, regardless of which clinician measured those. You can see the full history of all the vital signs that have been taken, with the most recent recording at the top. We also have the Vital Signs Parameter tab here. If a patient's specific parameters have been ordered, they will be listed here. If they have not, the agency's standard parameters will be listed here. If the agency changes the parameters, this is done in a global basis and for all patients. Normally, the clinical director will manage agency parameters. Patient-specific parameters are entered from Barnestorm office in the referral screen, or they can be entered into the verbal order screen. If the patient does have specific parameters entered and the clinician tries to enter vital signs outside of the parameters, then a warning will be given that the doctor should be notified. So at this point, I'm going to enter in the patient's temperature. And if you notice it didn't turn green, that's because I haven't indicated how the temperature was taken. I am going to click on oral, and now it has turned green to indicate that it is complete. With pulse, you will need to indicate either apical or radial, and I'm going to go ahead and put my number in the radial. Again, it doesn't turn green because I haven't indicated if it was regular or irregular. Under respirations, I'm going to type in 11 and put regular. Under blood pressure, I'm going to select which area to use depending on how the patient is positioned. If the patient is lying down and I use the right arm, this is the area that I'm going to document in. Only one of these needs to be completed, but if you take the blood pressure in more than one position, you can use more than one area as needed. And now that turns green as well. If there are any comments about the vital signs, you can type them in here. Otherwise, you can keep on going. Moving along, I'm going to click on the pain button. Across the top, you will notice there are several indicators available. The first pain screen has some basic OASIS questions. When you see OASIS questions, you may think that they are required, but they are optional, as indicated by the blue circles. So, on a visit that doesn't require OASIS questions, you can use these, but you don't have to if you don't need them. Answering these questions on a non-OASIS visit will not affect the real OASIS in any way. This is just considered extra or optional documentation. If the patient has no pain, I can simply click No Pain, and I can continue with the documentation. If the patient does have pain, I am going to document by using the other tabs along the top. The first tab is Pain Location. Notice under Pain Location, you can indicate up to 4 locations of pain. Here, under location number 1, we have a button that has an asterisk on it. This button does the same thing throughout Barnestorm. Everywhere that you see it, when you click on it, it opens up a new window with an image of a human body on it. It gives you an option of choosing interior and posterior. I'm going to keep it on interior and click on the arm of the human body. This gives me a general location of pain, and then I'm going to click this pull down menu to indicate specific location. I am going to select the right shoulder and click on it, and then click OK. Under the pain location, this is where you're going to indicate the intensity of the pain from the patient. Then you have several items that you can make comments on. The description of pain, you can do throbbing and sharp, how the pain is exacerbated, and how the pain is alleviated. If you have comments about the description, exacerbated, and alleviated, you can type your comment in the box below each item, and it will appear like that on the visit note. If you have a general pain comment, you can just type them down here. Once you are done with that pain location, you can move to another pain location and document it in the same way. So let's go ahead and click on a second pain location. If the patient is not verbal and cannot verbalize the level of pain from 1 to 10, you can use the nonverbal pain assessment to determine the pain score for you. In order to use the nonverbal pain score, you complete the screen and indicate what the patient presents as. I'm going to go ahead and select noisy labor breathing, low-level speech, sad, tense, knees pulled up, and distracted. Notice as I click, the score at the top changes with each selection. That gives me a nonverbal score of 7, which will be indicated on the visit note as well. Another option under the pain screen is pain medications. Any medications that the patient is on for pain will be listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to document how the medications are for relieving the pain, you can click on the medication and it will appear at the top. You can indicate when it was last taken here. If you have the information, you can select the pain intensity before the patient took the medication, and then 1 hour after taking the medication, as well as the acceptable pain level for the patient. If you don't have the details about the pain level before and after the medication, you can just indicate that the medications are effective by controlling pain as observed and reported by clicking this box here. The level of detail you choose to document for relieving the pain is up to you. You can use all of these boxes or just the ones you need to document for your visit note. Or the alternative is you can just click this box. That would be sufficient enough documentation for your visit note. If you have general comments about the patient's pain, you can put them here under the Pain Comment tab. This comment area is generalized rather than being specific to a certain pain location. If you did any teachings for the patient about the pain, you can go ahead to the Teachings tab and click on these as needed. And if you have any general teaching comments that are not shown, you can type them here. On the History tab, which you will find on many of our screens on the software, you can click on Most Recent 7, which will pull up the documentation of the last 7 visits about pain from all the clinicians that have entered this for the patient. So you can see what has been documented in the previous visits. And there's also some other options you can choose as well. Once you are done with pain, you can go to the next screen. We are going to move to functional. You will notice here that there are a few questions about homebound and functional status. This is where you can indicate the patient's functional status. So I'm going to go ahead and click on bedbound and unsteady gait. And then there's a text box here that you can write more information about. You can indicate on the homebound status information about if they were homebound or not. And there is also a tab here for 485. If there are no indicators on the functional limitations or activities permitted, you can indicate them here on the 485. After you indicate both of these, the function button will turn green. The 485 items are optional on a scheduled visit, but you may use them if needed. So you can choose them if you like. However, those are the items that turn the functional item on the left green, as you can see here. Now we can move on to reviewing meds by clicking on the Review Meds button. What you'll see on this screen is a list of only the active medications for the patient. The ones that have any risk associated will be indicated in red. You can move your mouse over the medication, and it will show you why there is a risk for this medication. If you put your mouse over the others, it will tell you a little bit about that medication. What this screen is for is to verify the dose frequency and the route of each medication. That information is shown on the right. If it matches the prescription bottles, you can verify that. There are 2 ways to do this. You can mark verified on each medication as you go through each prescription bottle, and they can be marked in any order as you go through them. Or you can verify them all at once at the top of the screen, which gives you an option to mark all medications as dose frequency route verified. And when you click this, everything will indicate that it's verified. If any of the meds are not correct and you find a difference between what is listed here and what is on the prescription bottle, you will need to edit the med history by clicking on the Edit Med History button up at the top. This is the same med history screen that appears elsewhere in the software, and it works exactly the same. So if I select a medication, you can see that this was the last date that was entered, and it shows that it's 10 milligrams by mouth. I'm going to go ahead and add a new dose and frequency by clicking on the Add New Dose Frequency button. I'm going to hide the med builder, and I'm going to put in 5 milligrams. I will make sure that the date matches the date on the prescription bottle and change it if needed. Also check to make sure that the doctor listed is the one who prescribed the medication. And once the new dose and frequency are entered correctly, I'm going to hit Save and Exit up at the top. Now you can see that this puts a date stamp on the medication history with the updated dose. It keeps a historical record of all the medication changes. The majority of the time when you are in this medication history screen, you are going to use the Add New Dose button. This is how you put in new information about a medication and to stop the usage of a medication in this screen. I will show you how to stop a medication right now. I'm going to click on this medication, and then I'm going to click on the Add New Dose button. I'm simply going to click on the Discontinue Stop Med button here. Now you will notice that the medication has disappeared from the list of active medications. If I want to see it, I can simply click on Show All Meds. It will pop up and you will see the previous dosage along with the stop. This way you have a date history of everything that happened with this medication. Again, the button I used to stop a medication was to click on the Add New Dose Frequency Route button. And like I said, it is the button that you are going to use for the majority of the medication notations. Next, I'll click on the Exit to get out of the medication history screen, which brings me back to the Review Med screen. What you will notice is that the medication that we updated has changed on this screen, and the medication that we stopped is now gone from the list. So this list is immediately updated when you update your med history. There are several more options on the Review Med topic, including a teaching button on medications. This allows you to indicate any issues that are going on with the patient in relation to the medications. You can just go ahead and click what you have taught. There is as well a teaching detail screen. This allows you to indicate specifics about one particular medication. For an example, if I want to document how and what I taught about a specific drug, I can select the options from the top part of the screen. I can click on that I taught it verbally to the patient. Go ahead and just continue clicking on specifics about your teaching. And then you select the medication that you taught. And you can also select any other medications that were taught the same way. If other medications were taught differently, you can edit your selection from the top of the screen before selecting the medication name. So I'm going to go ahead and edit some of my teachings. And then you go ahead and click on the medications that you taught that specific way. And see how it shows down here how you taught those medications. You can also click on the Mark All Meds as Taught button as well. Once I'm done with that, I can also look at the history for medication review by clicking on the History tab up at the top. I'm going to go ahead and click on the most recent 7. And this is going to pull up everything that has been documented in the review med screen in the last visits for this patient. Once I am done reviewing the medication history, I can move on to the next screen. So let's go ahead and click on Teaching. Teaching is a screen that requires you to save after each teaching, and what this does is allows you to record the category of each teaching you have performed. In this case, I'm going to indicate that I did an oxygen safety teaching. It was a repeat teaching to the patient that was demonstrated. I am going to indicate the topics that were taught. If there are any other topics that were taught that are not shown here, you can type them in under the topics taught, then indicate the response and the follow-up. If you have any general teaching comments, you can put them down here. Once you are done, you can go ahead and click on Save. To see all the teaching items for this patient, you can go to History. You can see the one I did for oxygen safety here along with the others that have been taught. If you want to do a new teaching item, you can go back to the teaching at the top and click on New and start again. You can do this as many times as you need to until you finish documenting all the teaching topics you covered during your visit. Now I have finished with all of my required assessments, and before going to the finish screen, what I want to do is just make sure that I have documented everything that needs to be documented for this patient on this visit. For an example, if there is a skin issue, I want to go ahead and indicate any issues with the skin under the Skin tab in the optional section. Just by clicking some of the options here will show what is going on with the skin, and if you need to write more, you can type in here. Also, under the optional section is a tab to capture the patient's signature. If you just scroll down, you can just click on patient signature. Then to begin, click on the select signature text at the bottom of the screen. This will display a set of text choices which you can combine by clicking more than one of the choices. If you have clicked one by mistake, just click it again to unselect it. When you have all the text you want selected, click on the Save Signature button at the bottom. At this point, you can still edit what is here to make the text be what you want the patient to see and sign. So you can go ahead and add more text if you want. If you made a mistake, just click the Erase Signature Text button at the bottom, and this will erase the text. You can go back and select your text again. Once you have your text the way you want it, you can now show the screen to the patient or caregiver to be signed. And they can go ahead and sign here in this box. Like so. If they make a mistake and want to start over, you can click on the Clear the Signature area button, and this will erase the signature. When the signature looks okay, click on the Save the Signature button, and now your patient or caregiver has signed the document. And you can just go ahead and click on the X button to exit this. Once I have all the optional items that I need completed, you can see the ones completed have turned green. I can now go to the Finish screen under Required Items, just by scrolling up a little bit. I will want to preview my visit note by clicking the Preview button at the top right under the patient's name. The preview is going to give me a preview of the visit note. What I want to do here is to check that everything I documented on the patient note is listed here. And I want to make sure that my documentation note is complete. This is the formal documentation of your patient's visit that will have your signature on it when it is completed and locked. This will serve as your paper documentation for audit purposes and all other purposes for your clinical agency. So you want to make sure that this visit note has all the documentation that is required for both your agency specifications and for you personally. You want to know that you documented the visit completely. Once you are done reviewing it, you can click the Close button at the top. If there is anything you missed or got wrong that you noticed in the preview, go ahead and correct it now. So let's go back to the Skin tab and make a correction. Once you have made the correction, go back to the Finish screen. There is also a Preview button on the Finish screen as well. One other thing I want to show you on this Finish screen is that you can add a visit note reminder for the next person that is going to make a visit for this patient. You can do this per discipline. If you want to only do it for a skilled nurse, you can do so. Or you can choose all, and this note will go to the next person that does a visit. So in this text box, you can put in the visit reminder here. Once you are done typing, you can go ahead and save the reminder. Once you save the reminder, which will be indicated with the green check mark, this reminder will show up on the start screen in the visit comments for the next visit for this patient. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the start menu and show you that your reminder will show up over here. Let's go back to the Finish screen so we can finish the visit. I am going to finish the visit by clicking the Set End Time. And that is going to indicate the end time of my visit. Once I'm done with the visit and have previewed it and made sure the documentation was complete, I'm going to go ahead and lock the visit. Locking means that I am certain that my visit is completed and ready to go to billing and filing at the office. Also, if you are using an electronic signature, locking the visit will add your signature to the bottom of the visit page. Again, locking indicates that I am completely done with the visit, so from here I can go ahead and click on the X in the upper right hand corner. And you will now notice that the visit that we just created shows up down here, and if you click on the Visit and Assessments button, our visit shows here up at the top. It is in the list with all the visits made in the last 60 days to this patient, and this list shows the employee number, the date, the time in and out, and if you need to make what type the visit was, and the status. As you can see, this status is locked. You do have a little bit of time to correct a visit if a mistake has been made. If I need to make a correction, I can click on the visit, and then I can go up to the top and click the Unlock button. And if you notice, the status says now complete. If I go ahead and click on that visit, I can then click on the Edit button. And from here, I have full access to everything in this visit screen. For an example, if I need to make a change in the vital signs, I can make that change. And then I can go back to the Finish screen and relock my visit, and then I will be done and I can exit out. You can preview the visit from several places in the software. You can click it from the Visit and Assessment screen by clicking on the visit, by clicking on Preview and Print, and that will allow you to preview your visit. You can click on the Select Patient button on the main menu, click on the patient you want to view the visit for, and here down at the bottom you can click on your visit, and then you click on the Print button here to preview your visit as well. If I want to see more details about all visits on the patient or visits over a certain time period, you can click on Visit and Assessments tab and click on View History. And let's say, for an example, you want to check on the pain history over the past few months for this patient. You can go ahead and change your dates and click on Pain. And I have selected here that I'll print newest to oldest. And if you want to see oldest first, just uncheck it. You also have the option to change the dates automatically to admit through discharge, or you can view the last 60 days. I am going to click on the last 60 days here and then click on Print. This is going to pull up all the pain data from the last 60 days for this patient. This information is also available on the History tab inside the Visit Note. You can see that it shows everything that has been documented on pain for this patient. You can view more than one topic at a time. You can select as many as you want, and it will print all of those items for you. This is a great way to check on information that has been documented in a visit for a patient in the past 60 days. So now we can go ahead and close this out. So we have documented a basic patient visit. This visit is completed and locked. If I go back to my start screen, I want to check my recent visits. You can see in my recent visit screen that this is the patient that we just documented on, and the status of the visit is locked. This shows that this visit is complete and I'm ready to move on to my next visit. There is another way to start a visit, and that way is to click on My Schedules. If your agency uses the schedule in Barnestorm, then all of your visits that are scheduled will be listed here. To launch a visit off of My Schedule screen, all you have to do is click on the visit, and it will show you that the visit is ready to be done. You can click right here on Start Assessment, and the visit will load for you. The advantage of this is that the visit coding can be done at the time that is scheduled, so the clinician does not have to enter in the coding information, and they can simply click on the Start and go ahead and document the visit here. It's a great advantage and a time-saving feature that will also enhance accuracy. If you have any questions about using the schedule in Barnestorm, please give us a call. For additional instructions on creating a scheduled visit note, click on the Help button on the main menu at the bottom and click on Visits and Assessments on the Help page. This will give you a list of articles with how-to instructions for the visit and assessment screen. Click the article you would like to see instructions for, and then right-click and select the Back button, and this will bring you back to the main list. If you don't see the article you want, you can click on Find More Answers here, located at the bottom, and you will see more articles on this topic. If you click on an article in here, on our knowledge-based site, you have options at the bottom. You can email the article, print the article, bookmark the article, and export as a PDF, which will save on your computer. And this concludes the training on creating a scheduled visit. There will be another training video on how to do an OASIS visit on a Recert or Start a Care visit that shows much more of the point of care software.